Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Keep Indiana Learning. My name is Melissa Wally, and I'm an innovation coach with Keep Indiana Learning. And I'm also an ed tech specialist with Hanover Community Schools in Cedar Lake, Indiana. Today, I'm here with my fellow coach, Diana Knox, for the very first episode of our book study series, Keep Indiana Reading Digital for Good edition. Whether you're here with us live or if you join us later on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel, we're here to explore this wonderful book. So let me introduce you to Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana Knox. I'm also an innovation coach, as Melissa mentioned, with Keep Indiana Learning, and I'm a technology instructional specialist for Clay Community Schools in Brazil, Indiana. And I am always grateful for any opportunity that I have to collaborate with Melissa on a project. And this book has been a breath of fresh air on a topic that I think has become critically important for adults and for students.
Yeah, so today's going to be pretty quick because we are really setting the stage for the book Digital for Good by Richard Culatta. And I've heard so many good things about this book, but actually I haven't yet read it. I have, however, heard the author speak several times, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him at ISTE Live in July. So I'm really excited to dive into this book. And I know that the author makes a really strong case for teaching digital citizenship and outlines the reasons why it's important.
Yeah, exactly. Over the last year, I've really been following a lot of dialogue regarding the use of technology by our students and digital citizenship that lauded ideas that really seemed counterproductive for the world that we are preparing our students to live and work in. Um, and if we are to prepare our students to be good citizens, whether it's digital or not, digital is such an important component of it that it's really just citizenship these days. Um, and some of the things that I was hearing and I was reading myself, I just thought they seemed a little bit counterproductive and they really seemed unsustainable. That maybe it just wasn't the realistic way that we needed to think about it. So when I heard about this book, I was really eager to dive in and explore a different perspective. I'm about 6 chapters in because it's such a quick, easy, great read. I just keep reading because it's so good. So, throughout the book, he challenges fear based models of digital citizenship and introduces instead a more proactive approach and a proactive framework to help our students thrive in digital spaces.
Yeah, I like what you said about sustainable because it's almost like we have to play the long game here when we're teaching about digital citizenship. And I really love what I have read the introduction in chapter 1 so far, but I really love what he said on page 6, and I'm going to quote. He said, the goal of the book is to start a new conversation to help our kids thrive in virtual spaces. And he says it's to teach them to become contributing digital citizens who can positively shape the virtual world and the activities within it. This book is the user's guide for the digital world that we never created. And I think that that is such a great description of what's to come. Because if you think about it, that's true. Like we have this digital space that we as adults, and then we have children learning and learning how to work in and grow in, but yet we ourselves as adults never really learned how to do the same.
We didn't
So
have to.
right, we didn't have to. And so there are 6 key areas that we're going to explore through the book study, and the way it's broken up, I feel like it really does break it down in manageable areas. And so what he says is that we want to be balanced, be informed, be inclusive, be engaged, be alert, and be disciplined. And I like those. Like if you think about those, and we will be thinking about those more in depth, that it makes it manageable and explainable to kids. And I think that that's a big thing we're going to touch on as well.
Absolutely. Because I think I mentioned this before and we didn't grow up with this, so we have never dealt with it as the adults that we are, but I know a few adults that could use these lessons too when I'm scrolling through my social medias. So if we think about the big ideas from this introduction, if you haven't read it, don't worry. This is the one part where it doesn't matter if you've read yet or not. You can follow along, think about our discussion questions, and then you can read. For future chapters, it might be helpful to read before watching, but for this introduction, either way is going to do well for you. And on page 7, Culatta talks about the dysfunctions that exist in digital spaces and how it might lead someone to have a gut reaction to, and I quote, bury all of your family's mobile devices in the backyard. But if we think about that in schools, what risks could there be of this? Um, and if we think about the world that our people live with, that's one of those not sustainable things because digital is such a key important part of almost every profession. Technology, digital spaces touch that. So to just keep our children away from it, then we have to think like at what point do you introduce that and that people are going to have different parameters for this. So let's just have a more realistic conversation to think about throughout this series. What would that do in the short term versus the long term? And is the problem the technology or is there a different issue? What we do know is that we want our children and our students to be safe, healthy, and happy. And we want that to happen both on and off devices.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, um, as you are beginning the book study, it's a good time to think about starting that conversation with others too. And we've always talked about good parenting and teaching, and we want to ensure our students are successful. So, what do we need to do to make sure they are also successful in the online spaces? Our conversations should not be based around fear or avoiding technology, like Diana said, but they should be practical and proactive that match our parenting and teaching styles because all of that is one and the same. Just because we step into the digital world, what we believe and how we teach or parent doesn't change.
Yeah. And as you begin to think about the book study, it's a really good time to start that conversation with others too. We've always talked about good parenting and teaching. We want to ensure that our students are successful. What do we need to do to make sure they're successful in online spaces? Um, and we don't want them to be paid. I'm sorry, I'm all tongue tied here all of a sudden. We don't want them to be based around fear or avoiding technology, but we want to give them practical and proactive applications. I think I'm repeating, aren't I? Um, but if we think about our parents and our community leaders and educators using these insights for raising and teaching children in the evolving digital world, that's the important thing. Whether you have toddlers or elementary or adolescents or teenagers, what kind of a digital culture are we creating and how can we all contribute to it?
Right. So, one other big idea from the introduction is who is the book study for? So, it's for parents, community leaders, and educators who can use insights on raising and teaching children in the evolving digital world. And I know I've said many times how I wish I had known this information before because my own kids are grown. But it truly is never too late to make positive changes, whether you're a parent or grandparent, educator, or community member. It doesn't matter. There's always something you can apply to improve the digital culture and apply them to your own digital habits too.
Absolutely. So when we think about challenges that we would have for you with this book study, um, we want to provide those in each chapter. And we would have like a discussion question, reflection prompts, and then this challenge. So this is all optional. because we want you to make this book study what you want out of it. And we're just going to talk about insights that really revolve around those things. But we really want you to think about and apply the content and get the most out of this book. Because as we go through these discussion questions and the reflection, next time we're going to be talking about both chapters 1 and 2. And when we think about the challenge that we want to think about, um, we want to audit our digital citizenship practices. So, Melissa, tell us about auditing, how we want to audit these.
Yeah, so the first challenge is going to be, and you might not do this right away. This might be something that you just kind of think on for a while, and that's fine. But audit your current digital citizenship practices and think about how your school teaches these skills. And if you don't know, that's okay. It might be something that you have to investigate. But are they empowering or fear based? And what is missing? If you're doing this book study in a team, share your reflections with a colleague and consider posting on a discussion space if you are doing this book study alone. Either way, let's get that conversation started.
I love that idea because in the social spaces that educators are in, even parents, we can post those questions and start a conversation and get that congenial discussion flowing because, again, there's lots of ideas out there, and together we can talk about more of those things. So, again, if you are doing this book study alone, or maybe you're planning to facilitate a book study, we wanted to also share with you some tools that might be helpful as you think about putting together a book study of your own.
Yeah. So, and this is all flexible. You know your group and you know what your needs are, but you definitely want to have the book. And so you could consider that might be, a digital book, or you might reach out to a local bookstore, or order it, however you acquire your book. And then you want a link to our episodes, whether you watch it live or you catch it on YouTube. If you wanted to create a slide deck, you could do that. You could create a reflection journal. It could be just a notebook, it could be a Google Doc. You could always print it for your group. And then you could have some sort of a discussion protocol with maybe Think Peer Share, or you could have some sort of an online group space like a Padlet where you all collectively share your thoughts. You could even have an asynchronous discussion board, maybe in your LMS, however it is that you normally handle those things through your school. Diana, did you want to talk about the pacing options?
Yeah, so you have to think about the format that would work for you. And Melissa and I were looking at this. Like for us, we're going to have this be partially through the first semester, and so our pacing was every 2 or 3 weeks we were going to do a chapter. But think about the format that's going to work for you. You could have weekly, where you do one chapter per week, which is ideal for staff or a PLC time. If you want to do intensive, you could do a couple of chapters per session, which would be great for a shorter cohort model, or even one chapter per month if you want to have a slow PD kind of initiative, depending on, personalizing this for whatever works for your environment.
Yeah, and any of those are great. There's no preferred model. It just whatever works for your group.
Absolutely. Like for me, I know I have had to I have the physical book, but then I also get the audio book and I kind of pair those because in my chaotic world, I have sometimes lost the ability to focus. So when I compare those two together, it really lets me sit down and dive in and stay focused for longer. So, that's how I've had to personalize my experience with reading.
Right. And I know whenever I'm a part of any kind of a book study, or reading and then discussing with somebody, it really helps me zone in on the content. So that's why I
Mhm.
really like doing these book studies, because it helps me digest.
Me too. I've made lots of notes already in my book.
Hmm.
All right. So thank you for joining us for our kickoff episode. For our next episode, we're going to jump into chapters 1 and 2, and we're going to really think about making intentional choices, modeling our healthy habits, and helping our students become thoughtful, critical digital citizens. And we hope you continue to read along with us.